What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Southern Draw, episode 2. I'm joined here today with our producer, Nick, and my co-host, Rod. How is this week going, fellas?
Been a good week. Pretty good Friday. Went and saw Get the Lead Out, a Led Zeppelin tribute band. They fucking rocked. I was the youngest one there, probably by about 20 or so years. Bunch of just old bags of bones, just really like letting loose. I have shitty eyesight, as y'all know already, and I never wear my glasses. I was so drunk I couldn't see anything. They have they have six people for the four-man band and three guitarists, and I was so fucking confused. I was just like blurry people everywhere. Closed my eyes at one point for like a couple minutes just so I could like get back to level. But yeah, pretty eventful Friday.
They played the song.
They played Stairway to Heaven. I thought they weren't going to after looking. I looked at all their past set lists and I was like, how do you not play Stairway to Heaven? I guess because it's like a 7-minute
The
song and
length
it's
of the
probably a pain
song.
in the ass to play.
Yeah.
But they played it. I almost cried.
Engage.
That sounds sick. Literally nothing going on with me. Just spending all day studying so that I can start working soon. So
Nerd.
done with school. So yeah,
Are you officially like Dr. Hughes?
Yeah, technically I am a doctor. So everyone, when you address me as Dr. Rod.
Dr. Rod. Well, I spent my Friday night spending 70 something dollars on dinner that I thought it was going to be $40, drinking sangria and eating a bunch of tapas. Food was incredible, but it kind of settles it back down once you see the bill and you're like, oh shit.
Did you
I
think
just
it was
spent
going to
$70
be
in it.
45 total
Yeah.
dollars?
That's what I kept hearing. It was gonna be like 40 something. And I was like, sweet, all this new food, try it out. And then I got the bill and I was like, oh fuck me.
I was ordering thinking like you were good, and then it
Well,
came.
it's like it's coming to everyone. So there was 5 people, and they just keep bringing out the food. Like it was calamari, scallops, and then we had like these meatball things, and it just kept coming. But at first they were like, I'm guessing it was like 45 per person on top of the other stuff you order. I think I just heard it wrong, and I immediately just thought I was going to only spend $45. And then I ended up spending, I think it was like 77 before the tip. And that was without gratuity.
When you open the like check, when something like that happens, your heart just like drops. It's like, oh,
Horrendous feeling.
Well, the food was good though, but overall, I'm not happy with spending that much money. But it is what it is. Peanut butter and jelly will always do good too.
Yeah. And you've been what? Just hungover watching the draft this morning?
Yeah, woke up at like 11, I think, and then I woke up at 11:55. I think it started at 12, and I was like, "Oh, it's like 9 o'clock. Like, look at me, this is awesome." I woke up early, and then I turned the TV on, and I was like, "Oh, it's almost noon." But it would just basically just woke up and started from round 4, and then started watching, and then did some other side stuff and prep, and then. But I have to watch whenever the draft happens. I watch all rounds. Like at dinner last night, I had my phone in my lap with the switching between the Bruins game and the draft, just going back and forth, waiting. And when we got A-Chain at dinner, I was like, yes. And everyone was kind of like, what the hell?
It's the worst eating at places that like it's like really good food and stuff, but they don't have TVs.
And it's
And
like
there's
the lighting was that dim lighting, where it almost kind of makes you sleepy, like when you're eating. So
yeah.
it was like had to turn my brightness down, and I'm like hunched over my phone like this. I'm like, all right, we're 5 picks away. And I kept getting the buffering shit. I was like, okay. But it worked out well. Okay, we're 4 picks away from the next Finn's pick, 6th round.
So we're gonna expect just like a random scream halfway through the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very soon, depending on who we take. I know I'm probably not going to take Deuce, but I would love to have just go ahead and take the Mostert Edmonds duo and just make it young, basically. That's what
we're recording this like in this middle of the 6th round, right?
Yeah, pick 193. Washington's up right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of the draft, the top 10, boys, top 10 of the draft. How would we feel about all that going down?
It was a really interesting draft. Felt like going in, we didn't know what a lot of teams were thinking. A lot of big, interesting moves in the top 10, though.
Yeah.
we'll jump into Bryce Young. What do y'all think about him? I mean, I think that he was kind of the obvious pick for the last month or so. I think everybody knew Carolina was going with Bryce.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1000%.
Bryce was like you said, we didn't really know what was going to go on with the draft besides Bryce Young. Like
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense. He was the best player available, in my opinion, and the Panthers had a glaring need at quarterback. I mean, they drafted Corral last year. I don't think Corral will ever play in the NFL, really.
No,
Um,
unless everything goes to hell.
yeah, maybe play like the last week of the season if their season is shot. But I
Yeah.
mean,
I
Oh, here
saw
we go.
where,
Fun fact here, boys. Patriots are the first team to draft a kicker and punter in the same draft since the Raiders did in 2000.
jeez.
Old
Yeah.
Bill still drafting like it is 2000 with all his picks.
Yeah. Yeah. The Patriots, I'm not too hot on their draft at all.
Awesome. I love it.
But Bryce,
um,
yeah. I saw a thing where he was already talking about how he was wearing 9 because that's what he wore at Alabama, and that's
Mhm.
Matt Corral's number. So I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that Matt Corral's either going to be traded or cut, especially coming off of an injury.
yeah,
I think Bryce is fine. Obviously the best pick. Literally, we were talking the other day, but I don't think there's any problem with him just because. I mean, it's not like I'm not saying he's going to get injured, but just his size. The game is completely different in the NFL. People way more. People are faster. He's still going to be good, but just the wear and tear on the body through the career, can he last as long? If not saying he's like frail, but it's going to be a lot different, and he's going to be a hit a lot more than he was in college. Had a bad line last year, but the year before he had a great line, and he was hardly touched. And half the time he would just out athlete everyone in the pocket with his insane feet. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen, but it's not going to happen every time like it did at Bama.
Yeah. Yeah, the high points about Bryce is definitely his accuracy and his pocket awareness. My only other than his size, my only criticism of him is if he doesn't have anywhere to move in the pocket, he's kind of freaks out a little bit and then he's really inaccurate. If you pressure him with more than 2 or 3 guys, he is kind of inaccurate. But other than that, I mean, he was the obvious number 1 pick. I mean, and that's stuff that you can coach, just getting him to stand in there and not kind of freak out when the rush is bearing down on him.
yeah,
He'll be fine.
yeah. His decision making is insane. I think. I mean, yeah, it's an injury risk, but quarterbacks are so protected now in the NFL. Like if you
That's
touch
true.
them, you go to jail.
Yeah.
So I think Bryce will be good, but I know we watched the draft together, and at 2 is kind of where things started going to hell. Y'all were both freaking out when Stroud went.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I thought they were going to trade, honestly,
yeah,
like back. Like I thought Houston was going to go backwards.
yeah. I thought they were going to trade back too, just because of what they need. They are kind of rebuilding, obviously, and quarterback was obviously a big need. But when you're a team like that, it feels like smart to accumulate picks, as many picks as you can. But
Yeah.
quarterback is one of the most important positions in football, obviously, if not the most important. And I think Stroud filled their biggest need. I mean, it was a smart pick.
Yeah,
No, for them, Stroud was definitely the way to go. And I think it's funny too, because like teams like you were talking about, you trade back, acquire the capital you need to build your franchise going forward. But this doesn't seem like a move Houston Texans organization has really done in the past. It's like they're actually like trying. They're like, okay, we're gonna go get a staple on offense, and we're gonna trade right back up, and we're gonna take a staple on defense. It's like a statement, like, okay, look, we're actually trying, we're listening, even though we did give up a little bit. But I think it's one of those things like you got 2 huge playmakers. You can't be that mad about trading back up, which I think their fans are happy to actually see that going forward, that the front office is like, okay, we can actually try now.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a genius move to get the cornerstone on offense and defense. I mean, arguably the best defensive player in the draft, and Will Anderson as well. And I mean, some people argue that Stroud's the best quarterback as well. I don't think people should really read into the S2 scores all that much because it's not a cognitive test. It's not really testing his intelligence. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, I like
yeah,
his arm, I like his accuracy, I
And
like
he
his
gets to play in the
presence.
dome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For
if
home
you've
games.
watched Stroud play, you know he's good. I was talking about the S2 test. I was sitting at the bar yesterday, and some guy was talking about like how CJ Stroud's an idiot and he thinks the Texans suck for taking him because of his poor score. And I looked over to him and I was like, "Have you watched CJ Stroud play football before?
Yeah.
Let
Who
me go. He
cares
said
about a
no.
test?" He
Yeah.
has like the most, I think PFF, he had like the most NFL throws made of any quarterback in college last year. He's
Dude, I
just
love NFL fans who like don't watch college football and they make comments. Like the other day when I did our winners and losers of the draft, I put the TikTok up and I think Nick, you had the Seahawks as the winner. And
yeah.
some kid commented, it was like what it was like something like Seahawks were the biggest loser of round one. I was like, are you an idiot? Like, did you see who they picked? Yeah, Witherspoon and Jameson. Like, no, not at all.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And the worst part about all of this is after we were done talking about Stroud, I was talking to the guy, and he turned out to be an Auburn fan,
Oh
but
no.
no tie to the school, had never been to a game. He was just like, "Oh, we like Auburn and Clemson. We just like their colors and the Tigers." And I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!"
So what were they Auburn fans from like 2011 to 2014 and then Clemson fans from 2015 on
They
from
just
there?
like them both, which is crazy. You can't just like two
Two teams.
teams.
Yeah, that's insane.
Colts though.
Colts,
They
yeah,
are.
same division as the Texans, obviously. Anthony Richardson. We kind of talked about it on the last pod. Thought he'd be a great fit in Indy because of their scheme, offensive line, run game, and they seemingly thought the exact same thing.
It'll be fun to watch him there actually. I wonder how much so they still have Pittman. Pittman's wide receiver. Who's their wide receiver too?
I think they still have. I could be wrong, but I think Paris Campbell's still
Chris
there.
Campbell.
They have, Alec Pierce, I think is his name. The guy he played
Yes.
Cincinnati, he was a rookie last year. So they have talent. It's just they have to develop him. But the thing is Shane Steichen is with the Colts, and he developed Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
they
that's true.
think, yeah, they probably think they can do the same thing with
Model
Richardson.
it after Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Go with
because
that approach.
it's a similar skill set between Hurts and Richardson, and I mean the raw talent is way more than what Hurts had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richardson is
And he can
crazy
throw it
compared to
farther than
Hurts.
Hurts.
Yeah,
Um,
great pick by Indy.
is T.Y. Hilton back on the Colts too?
No, he plays for the Cowboys.
He plays for the Cowboys. I couldn't remember because he came back there a couple years ago, I think. But
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he's with Dallas. He
He's
had
with
that
Dallas
crazy
now.
catch on Thanksgiving last year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. But they've got talent on offense. It was just a bad year like we talked about last year. It just didn't work with Matt Ryan.
yeah.
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for the Colts
Yeah.
last season.
It's gonna take some patience with Anthony Richardson, I think. Because like we talked about when we were watching the draft live, it's just no questions asked. Just get the athlete, get the best player there. You can figure everything out later, but he's like the perfect body size and athletic ability to just mold into be like a superstar if things work out. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to go right for them.
Also the Colts, the trend of the veteran quarterback is over for them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big.
Their fans have to just be super excited they have like a young guy that they can root for instead of having to watch Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz play football.
Yeah.
Stanford wide receiver. Elijah Higgins.
Decent. But it was also really funny yesterday when Jim Irsay tweeted out about potentially drafting Will Levis at the beginning of the second round.
I can't believe he did that.
Yeah. That would have been absolutely insane. But I mean, I guess if you wanted to put him in camp and whoever wins the job is the starter and then trade the other one at the end of camp, maybe. Picking fifth was the Seahawks. Obviously, you mentioned Devon Witherspoon already. People really didn't like the pick at the time.
Until they watched him play football.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's my defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance that he is defensive rookie of the year, like you're saying.
And his tackling's insane. That was one of their biggest problems last year was tackling in open space on defense and just actually making contact and giving up long, deep touchdowns. And he's going to, I mean, he can't fix all of that himself, but he's going to make a huge contribution with that.
Especially in that division with all the athletes that the other teams in that division has. They need solid tacklers who can get guys down in space, and that's what Witherspoon is. And the
Yeah.
core duo with him and Tariq Woolen is going to be nasty. That's
Yeah, their defense is
nice
beefed
duo.
up for sure. I mean, they were still decent. I mean, they were obviously as a team better than what anyone thought they were going to be last year, but I think it'll be a quicker rebuild in Seattle than like a lot quicker rebuild than people even imagined.
Yeah. Yeah, they're solid with Geno. Just re-signed him in this offseason. You know, they drafted Zach Charbonnet too to back up Kenneth Walker. I mean, and obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba later in the first round.
I think it's smart too with the running back pick because the Seahawks for like what is it, 4 or 5 years have constantly every year had injury issues at the running back position, just over and over. So I don't hate that pick with Charbonnet. I saw a lot of Seahawks fans weren't really happy with it, but I think he's a great fit into that offense.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Seahawks are having a great draft. Finally getting out of the shadow of Russell Wilson, it feels like the Seahawks moving forward. And Jigba, I can't wait to watch play. I think he's going to be he's probably going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think.
Yeah. Him with DK and Tyler Lockett. I mean, I assume he's mostly going to be working out of the slot with Seattle. I mean, that's just going to be
he's going to cover everything 15 and under, and his explosiveness will help just open the field up even more. On top of having Lockett at the same time, is not going to be fun for defenses to have to scheme against.
Especially because Geno Smith's such a good deep ball thrower. I mean, that offense is going to be nasty. They're a sleeper. I mean, I know that division is really good, but if they can steal one from San Francisco next year, they could win the division. I mean, I think
don't have the slip ups against inferior teams, and
yeah.
And then we move on to the Cardinals. Paris Johnson, Rod.
Yes,
guy,
absolutely ecstatic about this pick. This guy is probably my favorite player in the draft. If there had been a team that wasn't in need of a quarterback at the top of the draft, that Paris Johnson should have been the pick. This guy is an absolute mauler. One of the best offensive linemen I've seen in like several years. I mentioned it when we were watching the draft, but there's this clip of him in high school the year before he went to Ohio State, just absolutely abusing kids and just ripping their helmets off and pancake.
In context on the football field.
Yeah, she's just violent. And when I saw that, I mean, I knew he was going to be an NFL player because he's just a dog, absolute dog. I love it. Great pick. Protect Kyler Murray after the ACL injury. Perfect.
Yeah, this is the first year they actually listened to Kyler too.
Yeah, because Kyler told him that he wanted Tristan Wirfs before the Buccaneers took him, and then Creed Humphrey before Kansas City took him. And both those guys are all pros. I mean, they've had all pros in their careers. So if that indicates what Kyler Murray knows about offensive linemen, expect Paris Johnson to be an all pro.
Moving on from the offensive line, straight to the D line, the Raiders, Tyree Wilson, Texas Tech stud. Him just thinking the Raiders didn't have much actual pass rush or great pressure from the edge besides Max. And this pick is huge for them. He generated pressure on 18% of his rush attempts last year, which was the second highest in the FBS. So just because you don't get Will Anderson, you got a dude who possibly could be right up there next to him in Tyree Wilson.
Yeah. Close second to Will Anderson. A lot of people preferred Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. And I think it's not a sexy pick for Las Vegas, but
the right pick though.
It's the right pick. And Chandler Jones severely underwhelmed last year with Las Vegas. So I think this is kind of them kind of sending a message to Chandler Jones that we've got the guy who's going to replace you. And it may motivate Chandler Jones. And if they have 3 edge rushers, I don't know how you block all 3 of those guys, especially if Chandler Jones is playing better than he did last year. But I mean, for years to come, Max Crosby and Tyree Wilson are going to
They'll feast on every
terrorize
team
that
but the
division.
Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's
The
why. I mean,
Broncos and Chargers are gonna get mauled by that
yeah,
duo.
and that's probably their thought process is we have to stop Herbert, we have to stop Mahomes. Let's get Tyree Wilson.
You know you're not winning that division. It's literally a race for second place.
Yeah, so they've got to beat the Chargers and they've got to beat the Broncos, like you say. So that's their plan. It's a good plan.
There was smoke of him going at number 2 to the Texans as well.
Yeah,
So I mean, you get him there. It's a good pick, like you said, Rod. Not sexy, but I mean, it's one of those picks where the fan base can't be upset about it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the upside for Tyree Wilson is much higher than when they took Cleveland Farrell at 4. So, and also they probably, you know, they probably were keeping that in mind when drafting him. But if you have a guy with a talent like Tyree Wilson, you can't pass on him. 8th pick, my Atlanta Falcons took Bijan Robinson. I am not a fan of this pick at all. I hate this pick. At 8, he's a great player. He was the best player available, but he's a running back. And he fits Arthur Smith's system for what we want to run. He is basically going to be the Falcons' Derrick Henry, used in that role. I'm not saying he's going to be Derrick Henry. Great athlete, great receiver, but I just think 8 is way too high for a running back, especially now.
The Falcons are addicted. They have a problem, a very serious problem.
They have a quick fix problem.
They
It's a quick fix going for the skills.
They love skill players.
I mean, it's great to have all these athletes like Kyle Pitts and Drake London. They're good players. Kyle Pitts has been a little bit underwhelming. I liked what Drake London did last year, and I'm sure Bijan will be really good. But our quarterback is Desmond Ridder. So I'm not really sure. I mean, we could have, all pros at the skill positions, but our quarterback's Desmond Ridder. So until the Falcons get a quarterback, I just have no faith. But maybe Ridder will prove me wrong. I don't know.
He must just be like a god in practice or something. I don't know what. I mean, I like to joke that Ridder's good just to mess with y'all, but he sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
They're just overconfident with him, honestly.
Yeah.
Where you don't want to be wrong about your pick, so you just ride with him. The Dolphins have done that plenty of times with Chris Greer at GM. So
yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I feel like they're just, like the Titans gave up on Malik Willis pretty quickly. I think we need to give up on Desmond Ridder. I don't know. I mean, we have Taylor Heineke, so I kind of expect Taylor Heineke to play a lot next.
I would rather play him.
Yeah, I prefer Taylor Heineke.
Heineke has flashes too, and Heineke's like he's a leader. I mean, he wasn't the best player in the world, but everyone loved him at Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, I really don't like the Falcons draft. I like Clark Phillips out of Utah, who they took today. I mean, he was Pac-12 Player of the Year, All-American. Really love that pick, but he's a corner. And they just signed Jeff Okudah, or traded for Jeff Okudah from Detroit, and have AJ Terrell, obviously. So I guess Phillips is going to be the slot corner, but I mean, the other guys are just kind of reaches. It's good offensive, defensive line, which is really what I would have preferred with the first round pick this year. Would have loved Darnell Wright at 8, which he goes 2 picks later. So, but yeah, not thrilled with the Falcons draft.
On the good side, or on the bright side, Bijan will be a day 1 contributor.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to have that kind of flashiness on your offense to be able to watch that, even though the season is probably just going to be middle of the road or below.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last year it felt like we played in a bunch of close games, so they will probably be even closer than they were last year, but we'll probably still lose. But, it'll be fun to watch Bijan run for, 150 yards and as we
by
7 and 10.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to see an uptick in Falcons jerseys in Texas. So that's a positive.
That's true.
Yeah. We'll have more fans out here, I guess. So I won't be alone as we lose.
You could have had Jalen Carter.
Could have had Jalen Carter, who goes literally the next pick. What do
Everyone
y'all
failed.
think
Should have
about
taken him, dude. Should have taken him regardless of off the field issues. I don't care. That's a pick. He's like a first pick overall valuable player.
Yeah. Yeah, Philly got a total steal at 9 to get that type of player at 9. A lot of people thought he was the best player in the draft.
They've basically got steals on every single pick they've had through the first 4 rounds. It's ridiculous.
The Eagles are turning into a super team, and it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't see a team that can match them in the NFC.
They just picked up Swift today too, like an hour or two ago.
Yeah, they're building an incredible team. I mean, it's going to be really hard to beat them for the next several years. But Carter at 9, it's a perfect pick. The Georgia Eagles apparently is what they're going for. And I think it'll be good for Carter to have all of his college teammates there and kind of keep him grounded, especially with Jordan Davis, because you didn't hear a lot of the kind of issues with Carter until this year, and that was after Davis was gone. And I'm sure they were pretty close at Georgia together. So maybe there's something there. He'll keep him grounded and keep him out of trouble.
What do they have? Five or 6 Georgia players from that defense?
I think it's 5. It's
they got Ringo, right?
Yeah, they got Keely Ringo, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and then Nakobe Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forgot about Nakobe.
So yeah,
all those players from one of the best defenses in college football history on the same side of the ball.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, but yeah, the funny thing is those guys in the past, because just of how Georgia accumulates like these 5 stars, all these guys could have ended up on the Eagles anyway, but just come from different schools. So
yeah,
it is kind of a thing where they're getting drafted because they're supremely talented and productive in college, and they just happen to go to the same school. I think, they could have ended up together regardless, but it is cool to see all those guys get to play together again.
Yeah.
I'm getting weird flashes with Georgia now. This is more of a college football flip here real quick, but just kind of this is starting to look like the early days of the Bama dynasty with all these players going to like one team or teams taking all these players to a specific team. What the Eagles have done, it's kind of like what Washington did for a few years, doing a lot of drafting of Bama players like in the early 2010s. It's feeling like that now. So it's looking like the tide's turning, and Bama's the one with legal problems now instead of Georgia.
Yeah, and
they've kind of swapped.
Yeah, the same thing too with Georgia. It's like the early days of Alabama. They've yet to have a dynamic quarterback. It's just run the ball and defense. So once they get a dynamic quarterback, it's going to all go to hell.
Yeah,
if they had Justin Fields, if he didn't leave Georgia, that would have been even worse to deal with.
Yeah. And like you were saying, Rod, I agree. If these guys are freaks, it doesn't matter where they went to school, they would have been top picks. Like these guys are just insane.
Well, being from the state of Georgia pretty much does that to all those guys.
Yeah.
Is it per capita the most like draft picks out of all states, if I'm correct? They obviously they don't have the population of like California and Texas, but per capita the most actual draft picks. But Georgia's just a breeding ground for success.
Very true. There's many athletes in high school football in Georgia.
One of them sitting in front of us right now.
Especially on the offensive line, South Georgia. That's really a hotbed.
But no, speaking of offensive linemen, number 10, the Bears took Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. I love this pick.
His run blocking's insane, which is perfect for Chicago, especially with Fields.
Yeah. He's a plug-and-play guy. He's very versatile. It can play anywhere. I suspect he's going to play tackle for Chicago, obviously. But, I mean, that's...
He'll be the right tackle, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Reed, this is insane. Jordan Reed, he had this stat earlier. For Darnell Wright, 0 blown blocks on 388 designed run plays last season.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He's an insane run blocker. And then he's a great pass blocker too. In the Alabama-Tennessee game, he completely erased Will Anderson.
Yeah,
Just ate his lunch. So, I mean, he's all around outstanding offensive lineman. Great pick at 10 for Chicago. Perfect.
Yeah.
his
He'll be
size.
It gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling when there are teams who have young quarterbacks and they draft an offensive lineman in like the top 10. It just makes me happy.
Yeah. I love
Especially
it.
for Fields too.
Yeah.
He's just such a fun player to watch.
Yeah.
He's shown enough where they realize what they have. You
Oh
only have
yeah.
a limited amount of time where they're on these cheap deals. You got to build around them and you got to try to win with them.
When we were talking about people who are at that athletic and have bad teams still have those flash plays, that's basically what Fields did all last season, just being such a problem and keeping them in games alone just by himself.
Yeah. And
It's nice to
Fields
see
showed it
too.
in college that he can throw the ball. It's going to come. I
Yeah.
mean, do you remember against Clemson when he had like a broken rib or he was
Yeah.
hurt and was
Stayed
just,
in the whole game.
yeah, and just throwing bombs all game?
Yeah. The one throw to, I think it was Chris Olave, or it might have been Jamison Williams in the Sugar Bowl that year, was one of the best college throws that I've ever seen in my life. So Fields can throw, obviously. I don't think people over exaggerate. It's the same with Lamar. Both those guys can throw.
Throw the ball.
Just a joke. It's a meme. But
Yeah.
Fields flashed last year. If you look at some of these clips that Bears fans have put together, he makes some really outstanding throws. It's just really putting it all together and giving him a guy like Darnell Wright, who in his mind he knows is going to be able to protect him and give him time to throw, will just help bring out that passing ability even more.
Who are y'all's biggest winners and losers from the draft up to this point?
Matt,
Biggest winners, I think it's just unanimous, regardless of if you want to be biased or unbiased or whatever. Like, I don't care who you are. Philly is the ultimate winner of this draft. But if I had to not pick Philly, it would be either Seattle. And then I know this has gotten a lot of criticism, but also the Lions. Like the Bijan pick, I feel like people jumped. And then a lot of people were just dogging, even Lions fans, on the Jack Campbell pick, which I called. But I thought it was a great pick. Maybe just me being biased into myself. But I think it's a great pick and a perfect pick for their defense. Most of those people that are dogging on him probably never watched him play a snap of football until they started seeing Twitter highlights of him or like a play where he gets cooked where a rival fan base tweets something like that. But I would say Seattle or the Lions and the Bengals had a decent little kind of sleeper draft going through with their picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the Eagles as well and the Seahawks. I think both they probably had the two best drafts. I mean, in team, both completely knocked it out of the park. Built for the future, help the guys that are there already. And then I really liked the Lions draft as well. All the players that they took really feel like Dan Campbell players, and they fit the mentality that he wants the Lions to have. So I didn't have any problem with them taking Gibbs or Jack Campbell. I thought they were great. And then they traded DeAndre Swift, so that kind of avoids any drama with that situation. So really good past couple days for them. And then my last winner, other than Seattle and Philadelphia, is the Texans. Talked about it earlier, but you add some cornerstones on offense and defense. They took Tank Dell out of Houston, University of Houston. Super underrated player. A lot of people said he was the best route runner in the entire wide receiver class. So that was a great pick. Gives CJ Stroud a reliable target to throw to. Love the Texans draft. I know a lot of people were criticizing them for trading up, saying they should have not given up as much next year. But I think when there's a player like we talked about earlier, like Will Anderson, you have to take the risk. And you get the cornerstone on both sides of the ball. I love the Texans draft.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement with y'all on the winners. I mean, you covered it. They killed it. You can't argue. Like Matt said, it doesn't matter who you're a fan of. Eagles and Seahawks just absolutely killed it.
I know Cowboys fans are losing their mind right now with the Eagles draft.
Yeah. Yeah. If I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be very concerned. I mean, it was such a big blow to them to get skipped over by Buffalo for Dalton Kincaid.
It changed everything. It changed the whole pick.
Yeah, because the Cowboys pick really seemed underwhelming because it seemed like they kind of had to react quickly to Kincaid going. If I was them, I would have taken Michael Mayer, but I
Yeah, I still
understand.
would have went tight end.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I
I under
was ecstatic with Kincaid. I
yeah.
think he's going to be a beast. I know, Matt, you're
I'm
shaking your head.
so pissed. I gave
Uh,
him my day one winners though. Like I can't be. I want to be biased, but I can't be biased just because I can't because I liked him so much in college too. Just watching him absolutely drag his nuts all over USC was awesome. And the problem is lining him up in that Bills offense just terrifies the absolute shit out of me.
yeah, been wanting to run more 12 personnel. The Bills have, so him and Knox together is going to be great duo. I know Knox has struggled a little bit last season, but I think him and Kincaid together is going to be hell for a lot of
Yeah.
defenses.
The problem with
Yeah.
Kincaid, or not the problem, like the good problem is that dude can catch almost if it's just thrown in like this circle, he's gonna end up with the ball, whether it's if it's tipped or if it hits off his helmet or what. He catches everything.
Yeah. He moves like Kelsey too.
That's
And
what I was gonna
he's
say. The
yeah.
way he moves, the way he sets up in the zones in the defense, and just his body type as well, they're so similar. And that's probably exactly what Buffalo was thinking, taking him. I mean, we've seen in the past what Kelsey's done to Buffalo in the playoffs. I mean,
Shut up,
you
Travis.
want your own guy like that, you know?
Yeah. 13 seconds.
Yeah, 13 seconds. Dalton Kincaid will get his 13-second moment. We'll see.
I hope so. Geez, I need a win bad.
Yeah.
In addition to Kincaid, I was really pleased with Osiris Torrance.
Yeah. He,
Um,
a lot of people had him as the number one guard in the entire guard class.
yeah, no sacks allowed, no quarterback hits in his 11 starts this year on a really bad team. And only 8 quarterback hurries too. So I mean, that's just what Buffalo needs. Just another stud up front, and just I'm really pleased. Both, I mean, we don't have a ton of picks, and we didn't really need too much from the draft, but what we've got, I've loved.
Yeah. Did y'all have any like losers for the draft?
Broncos,
Yeah.
1,000% Denver.
They were one of mine too.
Yeah,
Their draft made no sense at all.
No, especially just with how everything's been going and the transition to just like the new head coach. It felt like the same exact Broncos. It didn't feel like a flip at all. It's
Yeah.
just getting finessed in trades and making picks where you're just like, all right, that makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah.
yeah. I think the
Another
Broncos are
trade.
just on a downward trajectory for a little while here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Peyton Manning
it's
saved
bad
that
because in that division, with the moves that Kansas City has made, and with I mean LA picked Quentin Johnston from TCU. The Raiders had obviously Tyree Wilson. I mean, the Broncos are gonna be a basement dweller if something doesn't change in the next year or so.
If
Yeah.
Russell doesn't start to pop off again, like 3 years, I mean, even in the year before he left, he wasn't as great as he had been. Same in 2020, except for like the first 7 weeks. If he doesn't find his like late 20 teens form, that could be very ugly in Denver, and they have a ton of money into Russ anyways. So if that doesn't work out, things could get very bad.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the coach in place to fix it, but if it actually happens, it's going to
Until he
be.
starts paying players to hurt people, and then
Yeah, that might happen. I don't know. We'll see.
and
My
the
other
Pats.
losers were I already talked about the Falcons that just don't like their draft at all, but we've been over that. And then the Patriots. The Patriots for like the last like 4 or 5 years seems like they have no clue what they're doing with the draft. I don't understand the strategy. Matt, you mentioned it, kicker and punter.
Yeah.
Drafted.
And dude, he drafts, I'm telling you, Bill Belichick, because he's their GM too, if I'm correct. He drafts like it's 2005. He just goes like straight lineman and like the defensive guys, they got Boutte, like you said, but earlier in the draft, they had all those receivers to choose from, all of them.
Yeah.
And they went defense the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep,
speaking,
I mean,
they just took a receiver, Demario Douglas, Liberty Patriots.
yeah. And that's like late round, probably won't amount to much. You never know, but and they took Boutte. He's a steal. He was one of my sleepers. So I think he'll probably be a good player for them as long as he can kind of figure out his off the field issues. But yeah, the rest of their draft is just super underwhelming. I'm not a fan.
Shout out, Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My losers are the same as y'all's. Touch on the Falcons too much for your liking already, Rod. So
Yeah,
I
let's move past
I
the
won't
top.
lay it on anymore.
And the Hawks lost to the Celtics.
Yeah, it's just a really bad time. Other than the Braves, it's a bad time to be an Atlanta sports fan.
You can ride the Braves World Series though for a few more
Yeah,
years.
for many years. Oh, and I will. Hey, the Braves are still really good. I'm loving my Braves. Did y'all have any like surprises or anything else draft wise you wanted to talk about?
Um, Only surprise, my biggest surprise, like a lot of people, was Gibbs at 12.
Yeah.
I love it though. I mean, as a huge hater of Alabama, I watch most of their games. Obviously I watch most of the SEC games in general, but Gibbs, every time he had the ball in his hands, he's just electric. But yeah, Gibbs was the biggest surprise. Running backs values maybe are starting to trend the other direction. I don't know. I
Yeah.
know Gibbs and
Mhm.
Bijan both were like come out and saying how put more respect on running backs, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It
got
could be
the
trending the other way. Tank Bigsby went a lot earlier than I think most of us expected
yeah.
to
yes.
Jacksonville. That's a really good combo with him and ETN. Kind of a change. Tank will be kind of a change of pace compared to ETN, but both big, kind of powerful running backs. ETN's faster, but Tank's pretty fast. So I like that pick. And then we talked about A Chain in Miami's offense. We talked about it on the first pod, and Matt, you mentioned it earlier. That is just absurd speed. Every position it seems like on Miami has just ridiculous speed.
McDaniel's got a lot of toys to play with, baby.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty terrifying. I love A Chain, and now I have to hate him.
Yeah. The only other things I had to say about the draft was Jake or Hayner got picked up by the Saints. So now it's a Fresno State QB room with Derek Carr. That's kind of cool. And then I was really surprised that Jalen Hyatt lasted so long. Great steal for the Giants. Another weapon for Danny Dimes. So I really liked that they picked him up. The Giants receivers, they have Darius Slayton, obviously, and he struggled with drops for most of his football career. So, I mean, they kind of have a similar skill set, but bomb it deep with Danny Dimes, and I love it. Love that pick.
I was about to say I got one more for the draft would just be Hooker in Detroit. I don't think we mentioned that, but that'll
Oh
be
yeah,
just see how Goff. I mean, Goff has been playing some of arguably the best football of his career right now. But because Hooker's 25, so the age argument comes into play. Is he going to sit? How long? Or is Goff towards the latter end of his career, and he maybe sits under him for like a year or two, and then you move from there, or you just want a good solid backup that you think that Hooker is that where you can have him as the backup.
yeah, yeah. I think I really like Hendon Hooker a lot, but I'm not sure he ever plays a starting role with Detroit.
Detroit.
I'm really high on Jared Goff. Like you said, he's playing great football lately. I think the Lions maybe are looking at like what happened with San Francisco this year and saying we need a guy who is like borderline starter material as a backup. And
Yeah.
they may think they're on the cusp of breaking through. So as much as I like Hendon Hooker, that his age, he you can't sit him for 3 or 4 years because he'll be almost 30 at that point. And
Yeah.
I don't, if I was the Lions, I'm not moving on from Goff anytime soon. Goff's playing great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Hooker fan too. Like you said, you can't sit him for too long because of his age. Um, I just love the Lions, so I think him on a team run by Dan Campbell's awesome.
Yeah, it is a cool story.
He'll be successful whether it's as a backup quarterback or he finds it with a different team. He's a really good interview. He's a good guy. I think I like Hendon Hooker. I like the pick.
Yeah.
Cheaper backup than paying some random guy $10 million to come sit. All right, so that's all y'all got for the draft. Let's move on to one of the more notable deals that kind of seemed like it took forever to get over the line. It seemed like it was done about a month ago. and then talk stalled. I know Aaron Rodgers was running his mouth on McAfee, but the deal is done. Aaron Rodgers is now a New York Jet.
Yep.
There's a budding bromance with Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson. I think, what did he say? He's going to make his life heaven off the field.
Yeah. Pause.
Not sure about that. Maybe they're going to be taking a trip to Peru in the off season, dabble in some ayahuasca, see if Zach Wilson can learn to read defenses after opening his mind a little bit more.
Yeah. Maybe that's the solution.
It might be, not likely. I think he just sucks.
The trick to being a good football player is just to take a bunch of psychedelics.
Apparently.
Yes. Matt, AFC East getting Aaron Rodgers.
We're not worried. The Bills and Dolphins, we're fighting each other at the big boy table. The Jets, it's like your little nephew that gets the cool, expensive present, at Christmas, trying to show it off to everyone. And it's like, all right, little Aaron, like no one cares. You're still playing for the Jets. Until you prove otherwise, I'm not worried.
The new kids, or the little kid's new present, is a old graying man with a drug problem.
No, not worried about the Jets, honestly, in the whole perspective of it all. Will it make them more competitive? Obviously. But I don't know. I still think just this AFC East division is a gauntlet. It's the best division in the NFL, regardless of my bias towards it. But Aaron Rodgers also hasn't played. He's still one of the best NFL QBs ever, but he hasn't played in a division like this year in, year out, which may not be a strong talking point, but playing most of his years when he was playing in the NFC North, he got like 6 free wins almost every year, except for the few years the Vikings put together in the early part of his career with Chicago.
Yeah. He immediately is getting probably the best receiver he's had in like 5+ years with Garrett Wilson, which is crazy to say.
By far.
Adams?
Oh, yeah. Don't know ball.
Well, even still,
as a whole, though, yeah.
Yeah. Even still, I mean, Garrett Wilson is going to be outstanding. I think he had a great rookie year, and I think it's going to be really comparable to Justin Jefferson's breakout. I kind of see they have kind of similar body types, and I think Garrett Wilson is poised for a huge year after this trade. I think he will be one of the top receivers, right up there with Justin Jefferson. I think he has that capability to be that good this year after Aaron Rodgers has been added.
Yeah.
But it's like, because y'all are both fans of teams in this division, I can kind of step back, and I'm an NFC South fan. I love the trade. I think the Jets are going to be really good. Just with their run game with Breece Hall, assuming he comes back healthy. Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, love their passing game with Aaron Rodgers. They picked up a really good center in the second round of the draft, who I imagine will play fairly quickly out of Wisconsin. So I think the Jets could potentially, I think best case scenario, like 11-6. I think they could be really good.
Yeah. I don't know. You also are an Aaron Rodgers like fanboy. Have been for a while.
I love Aaron Rodgers, but
they're not winning the Super Bowl. That whole media thing is inflated. There's too many good teams in the AFC for the Jets to have this miraculous year. Are they going to be good and better? Yes, but there's too much competition as a whole with complete teams with a lot of experience that will just heavyweight on top of the Jets. Regardless, they'll still win games. They'll still have, but as a whole, they're not going to make. I don't think they're making a championship run like people want to fantasize about.
How many years do y'all think you get out of Aaron Rodgers?
2.
I think 2, best case 3. In his introductory press conference, he sounded basically he was inferring that he kind of just wanted to get to the Jets and meet the coaches, meet the players on the team, see if he likes living in that area where the team's located.
Yeah.
But I mean, I lean toward he'll be there at least 2 years. I agree, Matt.
I think it's like we were talking about, it's almost kind of like a lifestyle tryout year. like
Yeah.
how much he likes actually playing with the Jets this year and living there. Because this season almost feels like I thought he was going to retire. The season feels like he's playing in spite to the Packers.
Yeah, is what it feels like. And I mean, he said on Pat McAfee that he was 90% retired once he came out of his darkness retreat.
Knowing
Once
him,
he
he
came
got
out
the
of the
notification and he was like, "Oh, the Packers don't want me. I'm gonna go play somewhere else and make their
Yeah.
life hell because I'm the pettiest person that's ever existed on planet Earth."
The
It
shit
is
about him
funny.
not answering phone calls from like the GM since January, and he was like, "My house has bad service.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, it has to be like face to face or whatever." It's just like he
He's so
hates
petty.
he hates the Packers.
Yeah, he can't stand them. And it's funny too. There were so many good clips that came out of his press conference. Like every time he talks about doing that little retreat, only thing he calls it the darkness. Just says when I came out of the darkness, like he's Batman or something.
Yeah.
What did he was like, "Don't play me up as a savior" or something, is what he
Yeah,
said in the media.
He's a quote
that's literally
machine.
what he is for them.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
What do you think he's gonna do when he retires? Do you think just straight in the media?
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna be like Joe Rogan's like co-host or something like.
He's gonna be on set with like poison dart frogs licking him. Be like, "All right, Joe, let's do some DMT and talking to former athletes."
Yeah, he'll join. He'll probably join Pat McAfee's show and
Yeah,
just hang out and do stupid shit with them all day.
yeah. Do we think? I know I was joking about it. Do we think Zach Wilson sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years? Do we think he's gonna? Do you ever think Zach Wilson will be a starting NFL quarterback worth a shit?
No,
No,
You
that's why
don't
Will
think
Levis
sitting
dropped.
behind Aaron's gonna help him?
no, he sucks. It has nothing to do with his confidence. He's just bad.
He sucks. I agree.
Yeah,
So he's dog shit. They're being too nice. He's a terrible football player. It was a stupid pick, typical Jets pick, awful organization. Just Zach Wilson sucks ass.
Hot mom.
yeah.
Mom is hot. Maybe Rodgers will let loose on his mom and then go throw 3 touchdowns on Sundays.
That's like Aaron Rodgers' version of the Brett Favre game that he
Yeah.
had after Zach Wilson's mom.
Literally the same exact careers too, both of them.
Yeah,
And both end up with the Jets.
yeah, that's crazy how that works. He
tried.
had to have been like. It's funny how he's like spent his entire career trying to not be Brett Favre and has just ended up being Brett Favre.
That's what I was
Yes.
saying. He tried. He was literally went so far left from Brett that he ended up all the way just to becoming him.
Yeah,
He did everything not to
it's all
be him,
full circle.
and he became just as like despicable and like spiteful towards people. He literally just molded himself directly into him.
Yeah, he did.
Until he
It's
starts
pretty-
stealing money
yeah,
from
right.
stuff in Mississippi, then he will complete the Trinity.
Yeah, we need Aaron Rodgers to commit fraud. Have he's probably going to do like a drug trade fraud or something like that, selling prescription pills or something.
In New York, he's stealing pills from the trainer's room. So
Oh man,
What
yeah, they'll
what
be
number
fun
is
to
he
watch.
wearing?
8.
He's wearing 8 because
Yeah, that was what he wore at Cal.
didn't Namath like give him his blessing for 12?
Yeah,
I
But
think he just didn't want to be tied with anything Packers related anymore. I don't think it had anything to do with Joe Namath.
All right, well, I think that covers Aaron Rodgers pretty well, probably a little too well.
yeah.
Other notable quarterback moves or transactions, I guess you qualified this as. Lamar and the Ravens finally get the long-term contract done. Lamar got his bag. I think he saved 7.8 million from not having an agent. So maybe all this drama was worth that. I don't think so, but
No.
Yeah, 260 million, 185 guaranteed. It's pretty insane. Highest paid NFL player of all time.
it's
A lot of
worth
money
it.
for a running back.
He's so young still.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is worth it, and I think his game. I think he can maintain the running for a little bit longer, but Josh Allen said something similar, is running less and just playing quarterback more. And I think Lamar's a good enough passer to where he can transition to that as well. So I think it's worth the money.
He's definitely worth the money, but I don't know if he should ever quit the running just because of how much of a freak athlete he is.
Yeah.
Like when we played him last year was just an absolute nightmare. The game we somehow won, but just watching him run the ball, I mean, obviously, like I just said a few seconds ago, but the running back joke, I mean, I don't think he should ever slow it down because he almost doesn't really take the kind of hits Josh Allen takes. Because Josh is more, he'll just run at you like a power kind of run. Lamar's just shifty and gets around everything, bar of soap. So I don't know if he'll ever quit doing that just because it's so intertwined in his game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love paying him because keeping him in Baltimore, they built that almost the whole like organizational identity was kind of wrapped around Lamar these like past like half decade.
Yeah. And they've done the stuff he wanted them to do. They signed Odell Beckham Jr., drafted Zay Flowers in the first round. So they paid him and they've upgraded their offense. So Baltimore's going to be just fine. But his contract will definitely it's going to influence Burrows and Herberts and those guys, obviously.
Yeah. Burrow, they just picked up Burrow's option. So I'm really interested to see what he's going to command. Because to me, Burrow's going to take a team-friendly deal.
Yeah.
But he's also not dumb. He's gonna demand a very high salary. So
Yeah.
to me, I think Burrow's contract negotiations will probably be pretty quick.
I think so too. Yeah. They're going to want to get a deal done because the Bengals still have to sign T. Higgins. They're going to have to sign Jamar Chase in a year or two. So they'll get it figured out. Burrow seems like a guy who doesn't want that kind of drama surrounding himself anyway.
No.
So, I mean, we'll see.
He's gonna get a bag. His is gonna be insane, but also at the same time, like you said, team friendly. It's almost weird because you think about moving forward in the league. Obviously, Mahomes is like QB1, and then you have Allen and then Burrow there. But just how much just bringing in him to that organization just flipped the script on everything. I think they're just gonna bend the knee to his demands almost.
Yeah. And he'll deserve it. I mean, he's that good.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned they're gonna have to pay Jamar Chase. It's in the same vein. Justin Jefferson just got his option picked up too. I know you're talking about him and Garrett Wilson being the best receivers in the NFL next year.
I love those. I mean, I just love Jefferson. His game is amazing, except for last year when he blew fantasy championships for literally everyone. But
Got you there.
Yeah, he got you there. I would still draft him again, but nobody gives a shit about fantasy. So, but yeah, he'll get paid. It's interesting though because the Vikings took Jordan Addison in the first round. So, but I don't know if that'll have any bearing on the contracts with Jefferson. Obviously, I think they just wanted another weapon to free up Jefferson after Adam Thielen left, but he's going to get paid. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion.
I could see his contract negotiations not being smooth.
No, yeah, because he's going to want to get paid.
Jefferson is gonna want to be like the highest paid player in the league.
I could see that, honestly.
He has the potential to really fuck up the wide receiver market.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just he's that character though. He doesn't care. He knows how good he is and he feeds into it.
Well, and can you really blame him though? Because he was what, a three-star recruit out of high school and everything.
No, he's an absolute just stud, and he basically makes up a lot of his team's offense.
Yeah, it's unbelievable on Sundays when like red zone cuts to the Vikings and you're like, oh shit, Justin Jefferson just caught another touchdown.
Yeah,
he's unreal.
Yeah, but speaking of guys, like someone who's probably not going to get paid is Chase Young. Had his option declined. He's been hurt for basically his entire NFL career. And there were rumors about him getting traded before the draft, which obviously haven't materialized. But I think Washington is likely to move on from him sooner rather than later. But I
Very
wasn't.
underwhelming.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of him coming out of the draft. I knew everyone loved him and acted like he was the best defensive player to ever exist. I wasn't hot on him, but he had a lot of production in college, so I get it. But I mean, it just hasn't panned out for him in the NFL for a myriad of reasons. So
Yeah, I
we'll see
mean,
what happens.
Washington's not really the place where careers flourish, you know.
Too
So maybe
dysfunctional.
a new spot. I mean, didn't the Washington, like, when the player surveys came out for like facilities and trainers and stuff, didn't they have like the worst like strength training? It
Yeah,
was like an F or something like that.
yeah, and they had problems in the past with like their medical staff. Like notably, Trent Williams had a like cancer on his forehead that they just totally missed.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I mean, a guy having injury problems probably is not going to thrive there.
Washington was literally ran like Blue Mountain State until the
Yeah.
ownership comes in. Like it's basically a carbon copy, just instead of being a university, just a professional football team.
So they need to give Chase Young shots of rabies before
Yes,
games, is what you're saying?
yes. That just don't feel anything. Just take a bunch of rabies and let them let loose on the NFC East.
That might work. I guess we'll see. Well, that's pretty much all our NFL news, right? Don't have anything else.
Not for NFL, but a former NFL player though, head coach in Colorado, Deion Sanders. How about all those portal departures?
Yeah, we were kind of high on Dion in the first episode right after the spring game, and it feels like half their team has left since then.
On the bright side, though, I mean, it's just they lost all of these players. I'm thinking no matter, even if they had those players you want them for depth, they're still going to be bad next year. Like they're just not going to be a good football team. So I think the guys he has brought in, I mean, they still have the number one ranked transfer class with the guys they are bringing in. So I think he's building that main core unit. And he's just like, we're sticking with these guys. This is literally all I'm focusing on is to build towards either late year 2 or early year 3.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they get, I mean, I know you mentioned Rod about all the videos and them being undersized. If, with the roster size and all the people leaving, if Colorado gets into injury trouble this year, they're going to be playing like legit, like kids that you just pick up off campus.
Yeah. Just like your average like guy sitting in like history one is going to be Colorado starting corner.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be they'll look like high schoolers out there in the Pac-12, and it's going to we Matt, you mentioned like when they play Utah, it's going to be
Oh,
even
it's
worse
gonna be
now.
so ugly. It's
Like
gonna be bad.
that's like going to be a mercy rule game. Like Utah may score 100 on Colorado, and then the stuff about Dion's not letting the kids transfer out have film. I mean, that's a really bad look.
Yeah.
Like really bad.
It's bad
Yeah,
that the university had to like come out and say like we are
Verified.
allowing them to have their film. Like you don't want your university like official page and your head football coach to be contradicting.
Yeah, that's bad. But
it just goes against everything he was doing because he literally, I told Nick earlier, he came in, he was like, I got my own baggage. I'm bringing Louis. Hit the transfer portal. So all the kids after spring hit the transfer portal just like he told them to do, and then he goes, "Nah, you can't have your film." Like,
yeah,
no. I'm like,
that's
you
crazy.
I'm like, it's super hypocritical.
Yeah. But like we said in the first episode, he'll have time. There no one's going to be overly critical of him for the next couple years. I think people get it. It's just you don't want to have baggage that
On top of
is
it.
weighing you down and having to constantly talk about, well, we lost 50 players, but we're going to bring 50 more in. Like it's well, like you don't want to lose that many in the first place. But I don't know. We'll see.
And good luck bringing in 50 great players.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they got 13 in their transfer class. Or no, I think they got 13 3-stars alone. It was like a 13 3-stars, a 5-star, and 4 4-stars, I believe.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
Travis is the 5-star.
something that Colorado's not going to have to worry about because they're not going to be upsetting anyone and storming the field. But the SEC came out and said what they're interested in looking into storming the field penalties. And even considering getting rid of home games for teams, which is what's the biggest fine right now? $250,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it stacks on. So I think if you do a second infraction after your first infraction, it goes to 500.
Still,
And then
losing a home game
stops
is
there. Yeah.
like way, way worse than $500,000.
No,
Yeah.
it's money for those upsets for those schools, like to pay it off. Like Tennessee last year, I doubt they gave a shit about paying $250,000 to the
Hell
SEC.
no.
No.
But losing home games is absolutely ridiculous. This is one of the greatest things about college football is literal like field stormings after stuff, regardless of if you're a fan of your team or not, you get to watch it on TV. It's cool. Like
Yeah,
the only reason this is happening is because Father Saban was so scared last year after Tennessee rushed the field and one of his players just sideswiped a woman with a punch, and then he's worried about player safety. This is all being funneled, in my opinion, through his ear or to Sankey's ear from Saban. Because the first thing you see when you read articles or anything about it, first thing that gets mentioned is Saban and the Tennessee game.
every time something happens in college football that Nick Saban doesn't like, the rule gets changed. When the spread and the hurry up was getting popularized, Nick Saban wanted rules changed. When the read option and downfield passing stuff started happening, they instituted rules for that after he complained about it. When Auburn a couple
You know what he
years
says every time?
ago kicked that field goal at the end of halftime, they changed the rules so that you had to have 3 seconds instead of 1 second. It's the same story with Saban.
Yeah.
He just they changed the rules for him.
They changed the substitution rule too that Auburn got him on in 2019.
Yeah,
He says player safety every time, no matter what it is. He says
every time.
player safety. No, it's just I got duped and I don't want to admit it. Basically, it was like, bro, like all these things, and then he eventually changes, but everything goes back to player safety for him, and he gets what he wants. It's just the reality of his power.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Field stormings are good for the sport. They're fun. We got to do it when we were at Auburn twice, and it was awesome.
How many people have you actually seen from these college field stormings? Has there actually been any real true threat to other players?
Yeah,
The only time they were scared was you were so scared that you just punched a chick rushing onto the field. Oh, okay. Like I'm sure she scared a Division I college football player.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like
when
people
you
that
rush
ever
the
have
field, the last thing you want to do is care about the other team's players. Like I don't rush the field. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sucker punch their quarterback. You know, you're with your friends and you're celebrating, and it's bullshit. It's total bullshit.
I think, and there's more instances of players like going after fans. I mean, like I think Texas Tech stormed the field one time and last year, and one of the players like just shoved a kid to the ground.
Yeah.
So maybe I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to keep the players from hurting the fans. Maybe that's going to be the excuse next. I don't know. But
that's why Saban's saying player safety. It's not player safety. It's God, I hope I don't actually get in trouble and have to suspend someone for doing something stupid like they should have been this year. But
yeah, Jermaine Burton should have been suspended. That was ridiculous.
I hate Jermaine Burton.
Such an overrated player. He's done nothing of note in his college career. Speaking of people who have gone from one school to the next school and done nothing, we have had some portal entries, some notable ones. One to Alabama as well, like Burton did. Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. What do y'all think about that?
I know Matt has some takes on this guy. I know that you two are both not really too high on him. I liked him. I would have been okay with him coming to Auburn. Obviously, he has some questionable decision making and he loves to throw interceptions. But I don't think he's going to do anything at Alabama. And Matt is giving me a face like he just wants to explode. So go ahead.
Okay. The whole reason he's coming is because Saban's quarterbacks, this is his worst quarterback room since I can even remember. They're mid. We're calling it like it is. They're mid. Would you rather have mid that doesn't know the system that Tommy Rees has, or go get mid that Tommy Rees has that knows the system and just play mid that knows the system? None of them are good quarterbacks. Nobody's scared of them. The whole Jacob Coker thing I've seen online, Shove that down the toilet. Absolutely stupid. Buckner, not good. One good game. That's it. He lost to Marshall.
Yeah. Yeah, he played pretty well against South Carolina in the bowl game last year, but other than that, this just seems like a guy who it was obviously not going to beat out Sam Hartman
No.
this upcoming year, and he went to where he was comfortable with Tommy Rees, who was his coach last year, which I'm sure there was some kind of tampering going on there. I mean, it obviously happens. We know it happens, but it's just a little egregious. We're definitely going in on Bama really hard right now, but
It's completely unbiased.
Yeah.
I
think
proclaimed
I
I
know.
proclaimed I was a Bama hater earlier in the episode, so it's
See, the thing is, it happened right after the spring game. There had to have been tampering because both the quarterbacks, everyone was like, "This is terrible."
Yeah.
And then the whole Reese things had, or not Reese, Buckner coming back to Reese. It's literally just they want someone who knows the system, who will just make it easy for them, and he can just play and just be all right, rather than just worrying about throwing interceptions every other play with
Yeah.
some bro.
it's crazy too, like talking about tampering, like before he even entered the portal, it's like, oh, Buckner's gonna transfer and he's going to Alabama. It's like, what?
They already know where they're going majority of the time before they even hit the portal.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really talk too much. Casey Thompson just entered and everyone's like, yeah, he's visiting Auburn. Like, I mean,
You know who's better than Buckner and who's going to win the Heisman? Casey Thompson.
but yeah, obviously, so Casey Thompson's in the portal. He's visiting Auburn tomorrow. I think he's got 1 year left to play. Obviously, he's been bounced around a couple schools. I think he's better. I think he's a better option for teams than Buckner was, but he's still not, he's still not like a huge quarterback name like we saw last year with the guys in the portal. But what do you guys think about Casey Thompson?
I mean, I think he's a better option probably than what Auburn's currently working with. And I do kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he was playing under Scott Frost last year. And then I can't remember. I know he played under Sarkisian for 1 year, I think. So, I mean, I guess it's another where he's just going from school to school. I mean, he's a decent quarterback. I'm not sure how it would work out though.
I think it's fine for him. Like if he came to Auburn, it's better than what we had. Almost, I mean, it's almost like it's basically not as athletic as Robbie, but he can make those throws, like better throws. I think it was like 63% completion percentage or something last year, and people were like, "Oh, you're hyping this up." I was like, "Our quarterbacks had like 52% last year. Like it's obviously better." And he was on arguably a worse team than we even had. Like when he was at Texas, I think his touchdown ratio was 24-9 or something like that, or 24-10. So I think it'd be an upgrade if he comes to Auburn, and it helps being in Free's system, especially with Montgomery, quarterback whispering between them two. But overall, I think it's just a good quarterback if Auburn does land him to start that transition over until Walker White gets on campus to battle with whoever is remaining in that QB room, whether it be Robbie or Holden.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bar was not set very high for quarterbacks at Auburn. So
No.
Casey Thompson's an instant, if he comes to Auburn, he's an instant improvement. Raises your ceiling on wins, maybe two
Half a
games
game
more.
The difference in some of those Mississippi games, probably.
Yeah.
But he's an interesting player. We'll see. I think it's kind of foregone conclusion. Same with Buckner that it's likely that he will be transferring to Auburn.
Matt, when I saw this come across my Twitter timeline, I immediately thought about you just because I know how into weird matchups you are. In 2026 and 2029, Western Michigan will be going to Ann Arbor. What do you think about that?
They got UTEP that year too.
Yeah.
So that'll be their start of their 9th meeting. Michigan's beating them every time, obviously. It's just I'm a big advocate for the big in-state schools to play the smaller ones. I just think it's fun, sense of community, even though it's against each other just within the state. I think you should always play your in-state schools. Maybe not every year, but rotating, kind of like they're doing with Western Michigan. But then they also come back to Ann Arbor in 2029. But the big reason they scheduled these games, UTEP, which will be their first meeting ever with UTEP, and Western Michigan in 2026, is because they play Oklahoma that year, and those sandwich around Oklahoma. So you get a tune up your big game against Oklahoma and kind of like a rest week instead of having a bye week. It's almost SEC-esque with the FCS kind of games.
Yeah, I love when like Auburn plays a bunch of the Alabama schools a lot, like Alabama State and schools like that. So it's cool to see that happen. It would be funny if they lost, if Western Michigan beat them though both times.
That would be
I
awesome.
hate how I get why, but both of the meetings are in Ann Arbor. But I just think it'd be fun for them to go to Kalamazoo for one of those games.
Yeah. You can do like a 2-for-1 like they do in college basketball a lot.
Yeah.
Play 2 in Ann Arbor and play 1 in at Western Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, Bama's going to USF this year, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Stuff like that's fun. It's something that normally wouldn't happen. You're probably going to sell out your stadium for that game to watch your team get absolutely obliterated into 1,000 pieces. But
it's still fun. Yeah, it's cool to see matchups like that.
So switching lanes, let's touch on my favorite sport, the NBA. Before we get into the NBA, I think we should preface that all three of us are definitely NBA casuals, to say the least.
Yeah.
Not the I like the playoffs. I watch the playoffs. It's just I don't know. I'm a bit of a basketball purist. I love watching college basketball. Like the emotion is there. You just don't feel that in the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't watch any NBA basketball except SportsCenter highlights until the playoffs, and that's usually unless I'm around someone watching the NBA playoffs because I'm watching the NHL playoffs.
Yeah. I know Rod loves Trae Young and is going to be checking in on his Egyptian career here in a couple of years.
I got something to say. Okay, so Rod on the first podcast was shitting on Trae Young, and then he dropped like 35 even in a loss on the Celtics. But that night before the Heat game, Rod was like, Jimmy Butler, I don't understand the hype with him and all this shit. And Jimmy dropped like 50 cents.
Yeah.
Again. And I was like, bro, I need you to start just shit talking Dolphins players next season for the football season.
That may be the formula. I think I need to just absolutely just shit on anyone who I want to have a good performance. And I guess that what turns into it. Because, yeah, I shit on Trae Young, said he needed to be traded to Egypt. And then he dropped 35 and then hit a game winner the next game. They still lost the series, though, so maybe send him to, like, California, maybe, to one of the California teams. That's a little bit like Egypt. But but, yeah, and then Jimmy Butler is just insane. Eliminated the number 1 seed, Milwaukee Bucks, and then
that made you happy.
Yeah, I can't stand the Bucks. Giannis is not a basketball player. He's just a guy who runs and dunks. Run and dunk man is
dunk man.
I like to call it.
I really hope Bucks fans see this.
I hope so too. Bring me all of the I want all of the Heat Bucks fans because your organization is so overrated and Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of the most overrated players in sports. So that's just my quick take on that. And then when he was saying in the press conference after that there's no failure in sports, that is such a bad look. That was
tough.
What did he say to the reporter? He was like, do you get promoted every year at your job or something? I was like, the correlation here is not what you think it is.
It was maximum coping.
Big time. Yeah, he's just like salty that they completely underwhelmed in the playoffs this year. A first round exit for them as the 1 seed is terrible. Like this season is a failure for them, like unequivocally.
There is no failure in sports. Remember?
Yeah.
Like Alabama's season was a failure with all those draft picks they had.
Yeah.
Back to the NBA.
Other series, Knicks took down the Cavs. I think this is the first time the Knicks have advanced to the second round in since there's internet.
Was it like 2011, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I saw I think Bleacher Report tweeted out that it was like congrats to the Knicks for advancing to the second round of the playoffs for the 3rd time in their history.
Yeah.
Which was just hilarious. But they look really good right now. I mean, they're playing great basketball, so they're entertaining to watch.
Brunson's a beast. and Josh Hart's a beast too. Just love the Villanova guys together. It's good chemistry.
Yeah.
I remember the video of when Hart got traded or signed by the Knicks, whatever. I'm a casual, I don't know how it happened, but there's a video of Brunson and he was like freaking out, checking his Twitter, being like, "Oh my God, Josh Hart and Josh is my teammate now."
Yeah.
So
And they get to play the Heat, so you're going to have a very interesting Eastern Conference final setup of two teams that I don't think anyone probably really thought were going to be competing for a chance to play for the NBA title.
Yeah.
for sure. Sixers took down the Nets. Embiid's hurt. He may be back for the second round, but it's kind of still there's a lot of different information that's coming out on whether or not he'll be good to go. The Sixers definitely owe the Hawks a favor for extending that series because the series is going to start 2 days later than it would. So
Yeah, that's huge.
I think the playoffs are going to be just like last year. Celtics are going to go through the East and then tumble to the West champion.
yeah,
Or ends up coming out of that side.
Yeah, probably so.
Nuggets took down the Timberwolves, and then Anthony Edwards may be charged with assault.
That was ridiculous. It barely even like if you watch the video, he just throws it like to be mad. It was basically just people be like, all right, we're gonna get some money from a professional athlete.
Yeah, it's dumb. I love Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, in my eyes, can do no wrong.
He's a stud.
Yeah,
I would have no problem being like I don't have an NBA like fandom, but I would have no problem being a Timberwolves fan just to watch him play basketball. He's awesome.
Yeah, there was a stat during that series where it was however many 40-point games in a row to start the playoffs. And it was he had done it and then LeBron and then some other Hall of Famer.
I think it was Kobe.
Yeah, was it Kobe? Yeah. So I mean that's just like basketball royalty. So that's good to have your name mentioned there. They just kind of completely screwed up this year with the trade. They should have kept Walker Kessler and it would have been a big improvement over Gobert. But yeah.
Yeah. That poor bastard Anthony Edwards had to play for Tom Crean. So
Yeah.
Tom Crean is one of the biggest basketball terrorists there are. So
it set him up well for Minnesota, though.
Yeah.
He definitely knows how to deal with a terribly run organization.
Yeah. The Suns took down the Clippers. The Clippers just absolutely abandoned Russell Westbrook and said, "Go have fun," while everyone else is hurt.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he played very well.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think he changed the minds of a lot of people and opinions that were out there on Westbrook. I mean, I hated on Westbrook all the time too. I mean, Westbrook triggers him to where he gets fans thrown out of the game. It's easy. Like it's right in front of you.
He definitely flipped the script with this series, but I mean, there was just no shot with Kawhi being hurt and everything going on with him that they were going to have a shot to beat the Suns. It's just kind of a big what if with the Clippers if they could have kept all these guys healthy at the same time. They just can't get healthy.
And yeah, I mean that's like that's like the story of the Clippers.
Yeah, I was about to say it's
in their
just
history.
Yeah. I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Nets. When I mentioned Westbrook, it made me think of it. Din Shitty, the nickname for Spencer Dinwiddie. As soon as that came out, I knew the Nets were toast. Din Shitty is hilarious, objectively hilarious.
That's a good one.
And then the last series still going on. Warriors Kings going to Game 7. I think everyone here is rooting for the Kings.
Of course.
1,000%.
So be interested to see how that goes. Sick of the Warriors winning. I don't like the Warriors. I don't really like Steph that much.
Their attitude is just lately has been just so obnoxious.
Like arrogance is ridiculous.
You said it, Matt. Like they'll be down like 40 points and Klay Thompson will point at his ring finger. And it's just like
I'm ready for that core to be done. And it felt like they should have already been done, but their experience this playoffs, which is what I think you're seeing pay off for a lot of these NBA teams. There's a lot of teams in this playoffs that are kind of like up and coming youth teams that don't have that experience. And Golden State's experience in this series is paying off tremendously against the Kings. But I don't know. They get to go home, or Sacramento gets to come home. So it's been tough for Golden State to win on the road this year, but they did steal one. I think it was Game 5 in Sacramento. So it'll be interesting. I honestly have no idea because I thought the Warriors were going to close it out at home.
Yeah,
And
I think the Kings close it out and win Game 7. I think they win at home. I think that makes the difference. Even though Golden
That
State won one
place.
there already, I think the Kings have got it.
Sacramento is gonna light that beam really hard if they
Yeah,
yeah,
win.
like me.
it's crazy too because the Kings have been like a poverty franchise for our entire
Ever.
lives.
Yeah,
And now they came out of nowhere and like De'Aaron Fox dog, like it's just super entertaining. And I think like you said, Rod, Game 7, I think it'll be the Kings.
yeah,
That like America's team kind of feeling with the Kings. Like everyone wants them. It's
Yeah,
the
they,
always loser. It's like the Lions in football. Everyone, unless you're like a Packers or Bears fan or Vikings, you're gonna cheer for the Lions if they make the playoffs.
they feel like the Suns did a couple years ago, where
yeah.
they finally broke through and everybody's rooting for them. And it's like they're a team that'll probably add one more like star in the next couple years, and then it'll put them over the top like the Suns have. They're very reminiscent of the each other.
So Warriors, Kings, Game 7. Warriors, the year they went 73-9, didn't win it all. Bruins, Matt, something similar
I'll do
coming
it.
here.
Yeah, big time. This I'll start it off. This dude named Thomas Carreri. He commented on the Bruins game on Twitter because after like there's something you lose a game, you go into the replies of the team tweets, and then you go down that rabbit hole of just your team getting shit on, and you just can't look away. But he said all the pressure is on the Bruins Game 7, which I have a counterpoint to. But he said win and still have a shot at being known as one of the greatest hockey teams of all time, or lose and be remembered as one of the biggest postseason flops in sports history, which is correct. But for the Bruins, there's so much experience on this roster, just like an insane amount. So, and you get to come back home. I'm not too worried about it not being a competitive game. I think it will be. The problem for the Bruins this whole series has been just being stupid. Literally. Too many neutral zone and defensive zone turnovers. Olmark, our goalie who played like a god all year, is playing like ass. Like he is playing so bad, which it's completely out of character. But the coach Montgomery said he didn't confirm whether or not our backup Jeremy Swayman may play in Game 7, which I wouldn't be against because he also had a good season as well. But Olmark, that potential's still there. But the past few games, he's been like just off. In Game 5, we could have ended the series. He's behind the net, goes to get the loose puck, passes it straight back to the Panthers player with an open net, just plays it across, knocks it in when we could have eliminated him, and we were just nailing him in overtime. But the Bruins, step your shit up because I don't want to have possibly the greatest sports season of all time just go right down the shitter and be remembered there with the Leafs. But even worse, it would be completely embarrassing. The stairway to 7 has to keep going. We have to win. The first round's always the hardest to get by. Win the damn game. Don't lose to these bums. Florida Panthers.
Yeah, losing to a hockey team in Florida, and I know the Lightning are great, but Florida Panthers is just like such a whack ass team to lose to, dude.
Dude, they're
Yeah.
the funny thing with the Panthers, though, they were the team that played us best all year in the regular season. I think they beat us twice, which I mean, we only had like 13 losses, or straight losses, not overtime losses. But they were always scrappy against us, and they played us well. But no one gave them a shot. I mean, even I was thinking it would be like a 4-1 or a sweep series, and then now we're going to Game 7. But like I was gonna say, there's a possibility of 5 of the 8 first round series is going to a Game 7. So hockey, regardless of how good you are, there's teams built for series and there's teams not built for series. So there's going to be a lot of hockey left to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I really have never really watched much NHL, and when I was visiting you, Matt, last week, I think, yeah, it was last week. I probably watched more hockey than I have in my entire life while I was there, and I was loving it. So, I mean, the games in this postseason have just been crazy, super high scoring, lots of comebacks. So I don't think it's just the Bruins that are kind of struggling. It's really everybody. It's all just the whole entire NHL playoffs have been crazy. So
Well, it's really weird because the Islanders got eliminated already by the Hurricanes, but the Islanders won Game 5, which was an away game, and every single team won an away game in a series, and it's just the second time it's ever occurred in the expansion era in the NHL. So the thing is, there's a lot of teams this year that were very talented, and there's teams built for series, which is what you're seeing with the Leafs and the Lightning. Lightning had a down year. They still made the playoffs. But you're like, is this the end of the Lightning run? They come in, and they're playing the Leafs, haven't won a playoff series since 2004. So now all the pressure's kind of on them playing in Tampa in the game 6 tonight. But you got all that experience in Tampa is starting to show now against the Lightning or the Leafs, who are having trouble closing out once again another series who they've put all their fans through literal hell on earth, just never being able to break through as one of the most historic sports franchises ever. They have a chance to close it out tonight. And I love watching Austin Matthews play. He's my favorite player not on the Bruins. So I hope they do, because I would like a series against them. And the Lightning, if this is saying if the Bruins do win, but the Lightning scare me. So I don't want them going any further in the playoffs just because that core they have is just so dangerous.
Yeah, I'm similar to you, Rod. I don't watch a ton of hockey. I've been trying to pick a team to become a fan of. And I think it makes sense to be a Leafs fan because, like, Blue Jays, Bills, mom being Canadian. But, like, I don't know if I can put myself on such a painful team. Like, I mean, it would be in line with all my other teams, but I don't know if I can take one more.
At least you have a team that lines up with your other teams. The Atlanta Thrashers don't even exist anymore, so that wouldn't work for me. So bring back the Thrashers is basically my point. But yeah, might as well Leafs. You got Canada.
Well, we haven't had a Canada team win a Stanley Cup since '93, so
yeah, I don't know.
1993 was last. But they can break it tonight. They can win tonight, and they have the team to do it. There has been games that even the games they won that they shouldn't have won, but that's how it is in the playoffs. Most of your goals are these bullshit, scrappy goals just because the teams are so good. But, I mean, I think Toronto wins the series. I think they get through tonight. But if they get to a game 7 at home, like if they do lose tonight, I don't see them winning game 7 just because all the pain that happens in that arena continues to happen in that arena. Like, what was it a few years ago? The video of like the Maple Leafs dude just like sitting there like this, and his girlfriend was like messing with him or something. Yeah, that's just been the constant thing, and all the thing I've seen from Maple Leafs fans has literally just been like, seen this before. I mean, they're still up 3-2, and they're going into game 6 tonight. They're just like, seen this before. Oh no, it's happening again. Like that kind of thing. It just it reminds me of Georgia fans pre Kirby Smart, basically. That's pretty much how it is for anyone who doesn't watch hockey to make sense there. So going on from the Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets got absolutely destroyed by the Vegas Knights again. And their head coach, actually, which is something you don't see, they got eliminated 4-1 in game 5 against the Knights. In quote, their coach said, "I'm so disappointed and disgusted." This is when he goes to the podium. He just sits down. He's like, "I'm going to keep it clear and concise." He says, "I'm so disappointed and disgusted right now. That's my thoughts. No pushback, but it's the same crap we saw in February. It was as soon as we were challenging for first place and teams started coming after us, we had no pushback. This series, we had no pushback. Their players were so much better than ours, and it's not even close." And he got up and left. And then I like it because you're seeing a coach actually talk, because they were in contention for first place. And then it was almost one of those things when someone starts to be physical with Winnipeg, they just kind of like go back. But their forward was like, he said, "I thought Rick had an opportunity to address us as a team. And, because we have to answer that question, right? He could have been honest with us. We could have had those discussions behind closed doors. So I didn't agree with how he handled that self after that game." I'm like, bro, you just got eliminated from the playoffs. You got your ass kicked after winning the first game, losing all the other ones. And you're a professional player, and you're mad that your coach is going out there and saying that when you're doing just a perpetual loop in Winnipeg. So they won game 1 5-1, proceeded to lose 4 games in a row, 5-2, 5-4, 4-2, 4-1. They just weren't competitive at all after they got that first win. And they remind me of the NFL equivalent, the Tennessee Titans, basically.
Yeah.
It's a good way to put it. They're going to have to rebuild now, and there's players they don't want to let go, which is kind of how the Titans have been. And there needs to be a flashbang thrown into Winnipeg and just appear with a new hockey team.
Crazy.
And we got another interesting series. I'm gonna make this one quick. New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils. It looked like the series was going to be over quick. Rangers took a 2-0 series lead, and I think they won like 4-0 both games. But the thing is, the Devils are a young team, and it was like, okay, they're not ready for the playoffs. Like, they're still talented. Everyone respects them, but they just got their ass kicked 2 games in a row. And then they went 3 games in a row and won 4-0 in game 5. And then they played tonight in game 6 against their rivals, and they have them on elimination. It's kind of like the Rangers are kind of like, what just happened? Because the Devils have just piled it on the last 3 games. And it would be fun to see the Devils go through just because that young core is so entertaining to watch, and they're so fast. But I think they lose tonight, and it goes to a game 7, and it goes back to New York. But either way, that's probably been one of the most entertaining series besides the Oilers and the Kings, which is the last one I'll touch on. This is going to game 6, which every game the Oilers have been favored. They're the better team. Everyone knows it, but the Kings have just not they've had 2 crazy comebacks. I think it was 2 3-0 comebacks that they've won, and then they blew like a 3-0 lead or 3-1 lead to the Oilers. But the thing is, the Oilers special teams, which is you're trying to kill a penalty or you're on power play, scoring with Draisaitl and McDavid, they had, I think, the best year of power play in NHL history. When they get that puck on a power play, they condense and they shrink the rink, and there's 5 of them sitting around, and they're just like, it's like ping pong going around, and eventually McDavid or Draisaitl pop that thing in. They score. If they get a power play, you're like, shit, they're scoring. That's why there's been so much scoring in this Oilers and Kings series. I think they close out a really tough series, winning 4-2, but if you're the Kings, I don't think you hang your head. You gave a lot of shit to a very powerful team, and they're the team that scares me the most in the NHL is the Oilers. They're just McDavid and Draisaitl are an absolute nasty combo.
McDavid is unreal. Like I said,
He's not even playing his best hockey either.
Yeah.
If he gets hot, the Oilers will be even more of a serious problem than they already now.
Yeah. The Devils series, it initially got on my radar because your favorite probably media personality, Matt, fellow Dolphin fan, Frank the Tank, the video of him walking out after
with his head like hanging down like this.
It was one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. I love Frank the Tank personally. But no, that's crazy. The postseason in NBA and NHL, 2 sports I don't love, are both just like intense. Every night it's like must watch.
Yeah, it's popping off right now. It's like it's real. Like the past week of sports has been awesome.
NHL's the best playoffs. It always has been. It's the hardest trophy to win.
Yeah, you had NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and then obviously the draft. So it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. On top of the whole transfer portal drama that's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. So want to wrap up with some trivia here, some draft related trivia for you two, see how many of these names you can get. So the 2017 NFL draft, pretty more renowned one. Patrick Mahomes goes at 10. Who were the 9 players taken before Mahomes?
All 9?
All 9. You two brains, 9 players.
I know one. That's when Myles Garrett went at 1, right?
Myles Garrett, yep.
Okay. And then obviously Trubisky was 2 because the Bears traded up.
Dude, oh my God, I forgot about that.
Who's 3? Who went after Trubisky?
Is it all? You're saying all players or just quarterbacks?
No, all 9 players drafted before Mahomes.
I know 8 and 9. 8 was McCaffrey because that was
McCaffrey.
Yeah. And then 9 was because I saw a tweet earlier this week. The Bengals tweeted out our wide receiver draft picks seemed to work out because it was Ocho Cinco and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So, but they didn't include John Ross. So 9 was John Ross.
There you go.
Dude, I'm so bad at questions like this on the spot because I think about it too much.
I don't know.
I have no clue.
3? I don't know. Who
I don't. I literally have 0 clue who 3 is. At all.
7 left.
Give us 3. That'll maybe
Solomon Thomas.
Solomon Thomas. God,
49ers.
He was such a bust.
Yes.
Okay, so who went after Solomon Thomas? Was that like DeForest
Fournette
Buckner?
graduated in 2016. He had to have been a top 10 pick.
Who?
Fournette graduated
Fournette at
2016.
4. Yep.
Or he
That's
left.
right. Fournette was 4. God, dude, Fournette before McCaffrey. At the
He
time,
had a hell of a year though. Not
yeah,
gonna
he
lie.
had a great year, but yeah, in retrospect, that's bad pick. Really bad pick. 5.
Corey
Okay.
Davis wasn't drafted in 2017.
What'd you say, Matt?
Hmm.
What did you say?
I said Corey Davis wasn't drafted in
Corey
2017.
Davis to
Corey
Tennessee.
Davis.
Was drafted in
Yeah,
2018.
I was like,
All right, well,
speak
there's
up.
another
that he was 5th, right?
Yep.
I don't know.
He was
I'm just
5th.
thinking of
You've
players.
got 6
Wow.
and 7 left. Both are still starters to this day.
I know. What team is one of them on?
You've got an AFC East team
For
one of them. He does not play for this team anymore.
wait, he doesn't play or he got drafted by an AFC East team?
He was drafted by an AFC East team. He does not play for them anymore.
Jamal Adams.
Yep.
I was about
Yeah.
to say it has to be the Jets if it's a top 10 pick. So yeah, well, so now we're missing 8,
You're missing 7.
7.
I'll give you a hint. This guy never plays a full season, and he's usually always amazing in week 1.
Oh, Watkins?
No.
No. He
Wide
played for the
receiver.
Chiefs, didn't he?
Wide receiver.
Yep.
Did he play for the Chiefs for a year?
Nope. He's on the team. He plays for the team he was drafted to.
What's
He's out west.
Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
Wow.
We got there.
What? Okay, so probably the most egregious, obviously, is Trubisky. But John Ross, you could say it's John Ross right before because he probably did the least. He definitely did the least of any of those guys.
John Ross is really bad at 9.
Yeah. He had one really good preseason touchdown and then nothing after that. Yeah.
That's an interesting core of players.
Yeah. Yeah. Corey Davis at 5, looking back to Tennessee, is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, I completely forgot about Solomon Thomas though when you said him like that. I
He was pretty bad too.
never would have thought that at all.
Yeah, considering how good Mahomes and then like McCaffrey are, even though McCaffrey's hurt a lot, like those two guys probably should have gone way higher. Mahomes, of course, should have been the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But
Well, obviously hindsight.
yeah, hindsight's 2020. But damn, that's crazy. All right, well, do y'all have any final thoughts for episode 2 of Southern Draw?
Final
Gonna go
thought.
Blue Jays again. Best start after 26 games. Tied the franchise's best start after 26 games. 17-9 right now. Won 5 in a row. I'm feeling the World Series. It's early, but things are looking good.
Feeling the World Series.
Feeling the World Series. I need a championship. I need something.
Yeah, I got news for you.
We're going to come back to this when the Blue Jays miss the playoffs.
I know. It's going to be sad. Add it to the list of depressing sports things that happened to me.
Yeah, it'll be okay, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Matt, what's your final thought?
My final thought is whoever we start at goalie, play fucking goalie and win game 7. Or I'm going to lose my mind.
They got it. They're too, like you said, too experienced. The experience is going to come out. Bruins take game 7.
Oh, also Bill Belichick's washed.
Yeah. We
Very
said,
washed.
we were talking earlier, within 3 years, there will be a new coach. If the Raiders are good, if the Raiders pick it up in the next couple of years, Josh McDaniel, head coach of the New England Patriots.
I'd love that.
Me too. That'd just make them terrible for
Yeah.
You know that's what Robert Kraft would definitely do that.
Robert Kraft won't make a hire outside of the Belichick tree.
Yeah.
Sure. He has to get rid of Belichick. And it won't be a firing either. It'll be a mutual agreement of parting ways.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping. It can't come soon enough.
Yeah. What you got for us, Rod?
So the Falcons, poverty franchise currently. I think after this abysmal draft, the only solution is to tank for Caleb Williams. I think we need to get Caleb Williams and his painted nails to Atlanta and immediately switch to the throwback uniforms and begin a new era.
You want to hire Lincoln Riley too?
If he can win football games, sure. I guess we'll never win a championship if we hire Lincoln Riley, but it's better
We weren't
than
gonna win one anyway, so it's
one day we will.
Won't win a
no.
championship.
Return
You
to
won't.
greatness.
You won't have good
Falcons.
brisket either.
The Falcons are a poverty franchise that are just stuck. It just happens to some teams, man. They just can't. They had their chance to do it. Like the Chargers, I think was like 19. No, that would have been the Bills in 94. It may have been the 80s. Chargers got that one Super Bowl they got to, flushed it down the toilet. Falcons did it. There's one team up north in the AFC East that did it a record amount of times. And the
Yeah.
Vikings have also done it.
You have
And
to admire that amount of consistency, though.
true. It's hard to lose that much.
I still have faith. We'll do something one day. Might be after I'm long gone, but you know.
I have faith we will do something one day is really one of the more confident things I've ever heard you say.
Bijan Robinson in his 10th year in the NFL leads the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl as quarterback as Desmond Ridder gets hurt.
On a prosthetic leg after he's been run into the ground.
I think that's probably more likely to happen than the Bills winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. But
Shit fest. Shit fest. Shit fest.
that's my final thought. Matt, do you want to take us to our outro?
Thank you all for listening. This is episode 2. I know we covered a lot. It was pretty long. We're not going to have them all be this long, obviously, because so many sports have happened this weekend. But I hope you have a great weekend. You enjoy this show. And always remember the Falcons and the Bills have never won a Super Bowl. Thank you for listening to episode 2. We'll see you next time.